Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel and blog. I'm Jenny Hall. Thanks for joining me for another tutorial. Today I'd like to share a project that I created as guest designer for the Stamp Ink Paper Challenge for the month of July. I'm so excited to have been asked to be the guest. I'd like you to check out all of the projects on their challenges this month. I'm going to create a card with a theme of fabulous florals. I'm using a background stamp for the foreground of my card, which is a bit of a role reversal, and I'll show you how I created the images of the fussy cut logs. For large and cumbersome background stamps, sometimes I place the paper on the stamp instead of putting the stamp on the paper. This is why I have a directional arrow drawn onto the back of my cardstock. Placing the cardstock in the right place on the background stamp and then add a piece of typing paper over this whole image allows me to push the paper onto the stamp without having to move anything at all. So as you can see, I now have an image of a stack of logs that I can fussy cut the top, and it will look like a wood pile. So to polish off the top fussy cut edge of this little image, I'm using a dark brown marker to give it a solid look on the top. Because it is stamped on a lighter cardstock than I used the ink, it needed to not have the lighter paper show on the top of where I fussy cut. I hope that makes sense. So for the background of my card, I have a piece of Color Theory Designer Series paper. I like this green ombre image, and I want to do some heat embossing for this stamped image. I'd like for that floral image from Wood Words to be featured kind of like a rose hedge that's growing behind the wood pile, or maybe like some wild roses. And I'm going to place it in a way that the whole image is not going to show on the front of the card. Instead, it's going to be kind of peeking up from behind the stack of wood. Heat imaging or heat embossing on a piece of designer series paper is great, and it's a nice way to give you some versatility in your projects. I would caution you to be very gentle with the heat gun. Here is a small section of vellum paper that I'm going to also heat emboss a sentiment from Wood Words, and I'll echo the color of gold throughout the rest of the project. Again, with vellum paper, I am being very gentle with my heat embossing and often will emboss from the back side so that my paper doesn't warp in an uncumbersome direction. I'm trimming down this piece of vellum after it's heat embossed so that I know that I can get everything nice and straight. To attach the vellum to the stamped image of the wood pile, I have some glue dots, and I'm going to adhere behind on the back side of the cardstock instead of the front. As you know, any kind of adhesive shows through on vellum, so I want to hide my adhesive as nicely and easily as I can. I'm using snail adhesive to adhere the Color Theory panel down to a piece of old olive cardstock. As you can see, this piece was heat embossed, but because I was gentle with the heat gun, it didn't warp the panel very much. Here is a length of gold thread that I've wrapped around and adhered on the back of the stamped panel. The gold theme in this card is carried through from the bottom to the top, and I'll bring the eye up to the top by using some gold sequins. I'm adhering them with some Tombow liquid glue and my paper piercing tool. For the inside of the card, I have another piece of vanilla cardstock, and I'm echoing the green colors through and bringing a lighter shade of Old Olive. I'll adhere this into the card with some small spots of liquid glue. Thank you for joining me for this card making tutorial. You can purchase supplies and get more card making inspiration on my blog at jennystampsup.com. Be sure not to miss the exclusive content I share only with my customers. You can become a customer by clicking Shop Now at jennystampsup.com to make your Stampin' Up! Purchase. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you in the next video.
Thanks for watching the video. See you next time.